No one should be socially isolating themselves. People are very concerned right now about what they could catch if they have contact with other people. However, they are completely missing the fact that they are significantly increasing their chances of getting an illness if they isolate themselves. In this video, I'm going to tell you why socially isolating yourself isn't the way to deal with coronavirus. There is a big difference between social distancing, self-isolation, and socially isolating yourself. Physically distancing yourself from others is not the same as removing yourself socially from society and your connections. Now, there are people who are very frightened of COVID-19. These people are isolating themselves and cutting off contact with those around them to a much larger extent than is necessary just to be safe. The thing is, are they safe? By shutting themselves away from all people, are they really protecting themselves from getting sick? The mistake they are making is underestimating the risk of an illness that they actually can get in isolation. I'm talking mental illness. How do I know this? Well, I've put this to the test myself. 6 years ago, I spent 2 weeks hardly leaving the house. It was after a very difficult work situation which had me so stressed out, I ended up resigning. I wasn't in a good place, and for 2 weeks, I didn't leave the house. I didn't see anyone, and I got really sick. To be fair, my mental health wasn't great to start with. From the work situation, my anxiety was pretty high, not unlike what people are probably experiencing at the moment. Going from a high-stress environment to sitting around home watching movies and trying to distract myself from my negative thoughts, this was not a good call. My mood started to plummet. I felt like everything was hopeless. The biggest threat to my survival actually became myself, as I became more and more suicidal. I share this story because so much of it resonates with the current situation and what people are inflicting on themselves unnecessarily. There seems to be such a focus on people's physical health and dying from this disease that we're overlooking the real threat that poor mental health has. Globally, close to 800,000 people die from suicide every year. That's 1 every 40 seconds. And mental disorders are present in up to 90% of people who die of suicide. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among people aged 15 to 29. So when I see a young person isolating themselves unnecessarily from others, warning bells go off in my head. While they're locked in their room for hours on end, they may not catch or transmit COVID-19. However, the risk to their mental health is very high. Another incredibly concerning stat is that the suicide rates are highest in those aged 70 years and older for both men and women in almost all regions of the world. Research has been done on the effect of moving elderly out of the community and into rest homes. The outcome of this is they increasingly feel lonely, anxious, depressed, and frequently lose motivation to continue living. And we are systematically isolating them from their families and communities in an attempt to protect them from COVID-19. I question if this is actually what they want and whether this is actually increasing their chances of survival. You see, a sense of isolation and lack of social support is a risk factor in suicidality, especially when compounded with other risk factors like job loss and financial insecurity. So, I looked at the World Health Organization's recommendation for preventing suicide under the heading, "What protects people from the risk of suicide?" Lo and behold, the first thing is strong personal relationships. Both young and old need social connections. Not a surprise, but a timely reminder. We need social connections. This makes sense when you remember that we are a social species. In the past, our very survival relied on being in a community group. Being ostracized from your tribal group would mean certain death. Our primitive brain is going to struggle to understand that our self-isolation is self-inflicted, not just being thrown out of our communal group for good. You might be thinking, well, I'm not going to kill myself. That's great. However, depression and anxiety are the second leading cause of health loss behind heart disease. health loss refers to three things. The first being early death, not just by suicide. Secondly, it means a reduction in the quality of life. And lastly, it's about whether someone is classified as disabled. This is serious. So what do you do? Well, first, there will be guidelines that each country will have regarding who needs to self-isolate. I'm not suggesting you ignore these. There is a whole other stress and social consequences that happen when you do this. The person who is going to come out of this with the strong mental well-being is the person who is informed, who knows what is required of them and what is not. You may need to physically distance and self-isolate. However, in many cases, you're still able to go outside and even go for a walk or a bike ride if you avoid crowded areas and keep a distance from others not self-isolating. This will differ from country to country, but get informed. Getting sunlight, exercise, and fresh air is really important for keeping you not only physically well, but psychologically too. Get creative. There's likely to be sunlight in your backyard or on your balcony. You can exercise in your living room. I've been enjoying the Latin dance-inspired fitness videos. Know what's expected and don't overly restrict your life beyond these guidelines. Don't lock yourself in your room and stay there for 2 weeks. You can keep yourself mentally well by not completely socially isolating yourself. Even if you aren't able to see another person physically, don't cut all social contact. With the technology we now have, you can connect digitally. Skype and FaceTime are a great way to be able to see and talk to people you know and care about. I'd recommend connecting with at least one person every day. You don't have to go through this alone. You can be next door or on the other side of the world, and you can share your joys and your struggles through online means. You can also join online support groups. I would suggest it's a well-moderated, psychologically helpful group. Just being on an open forum and group isn't necessarily gonna be helpful. There is gonna be some unhelpful and unsolicited advice that can be given, as well as abusive and trolling members. However, a supportive, positive, and action-focused group can be incredible. Don't underestimate how helpful an action-focused group can be, where you are challenged to grow and develop. I can understand the desire to offload and vent. However, I've been involved in a couple of action-focused groups, and it has been incredibly helpful for me personally and professionally. There are other strategies you can use to manage your anxiety and stress, which I don't actually have time to cover right here. The thing is, when we saw all this happening, we knew this would be an issue for people. That's why we started the Anti-Anxiety Academy, a place where you can get a greater understanding of anxiety and learn the skills you need to manage it. The Anti-Anxiety Academy also has a community moderated by myself and Michael. This is a place where you can connect with others who are positively working to manage their anxiety and improve their mental well-being. We had planned to launch this in May of this year, however, we opened it urgently last week to provide a place for people who need this resource and community now. If you want to learn more about that, then click the link in the description. We are currently offering the first month for just $1, so you can jump in and get a feel for it. We didn't want there to be a financial barrier to getting started. People are saying they find this so exciting and that it is the first real resource that will be available and sustainable for the people they work with in disadvantaged communities. So don't compromise your mental health during this pandemic. Get informed and get connected and stay well.